Shocking family secrets explode at Five Poppies. Britt's daring rescue unveils the truth about the Faison legacy. The luxurious Five Poppies Dalmatia Hotel has become the epicenter of danger and shocking revelations that will forever change the lives of several Port Charles residents. What began as a covert WSB mission has transformed into a deadly game of cat and mouse, with family secrets that span decades finally coming to light. In the most dramatic fashion imaginable, the trap closes in. Jocelyn Jacks and her WSB handler Vaughn found themselves in an increasingly precarious situation at the Five Poppies resort. Their carefully constructed cover as newlyweds had been working perfectly until Pascal, the seemingly helpful concierge, began to piece together inconsistencies in their story. The charming European facade masked a sharp intelligence that missed nothing, and when Pascal finally connected the dots about their true identities, the trap snapped shut with terrifying efficiency. The luxurious suite that had been their sanctuary quickly became their prison. Pascal's men, appearing as ordinary hotel staff, had cornered the young agents with professional precision. Gone were the days of romantic dinners and spa treatments as the couple found themselves confined to their room, their communication devices confiscated, and guards posted discreetly in a hallway. The irony wasn't lost on Jocelyn. She had survived countless dangers in Port Charles, only to find herself trapped in what was supposed to be paradise. Vaughn's training kicked in as he assessed their situation, but even his experience couldn't overcome the fact that they were outnumbered and outgunned in hostile territory. The walls of their gilded cage seemed to close in as hours passed without any sign of rescue. Their WSB backup seemed impossibly far away, and Pascal's calm demeanor suggested he held all the cards in this deadly game. Britt's unexpected discovery. Meanwhile, Dr. Britt Westburn moved through the resort with the careful awareness of someone who had learned to survive in dangerous circumstances. Her own mysterious presence at Five Poppies had been shrouded in secrecy, but her medical instincts and survival skills remained sharp despite the circumstances that had brought her to this Croatian paradise. It was during one of her carefully planned walks through the hotel's corridors that Britt noticed the unusual activity around a particular suite. The presence of guards trying to appear as maintenance staff didn't fool someone who had lived through as much deception as she had. Her curiosity piqued. She managed to catch a glimpse through a service entrance and was shocked to recognize Jocelyn, the young woman whose life she had saved from the hook killer back in Port Charles. The realization hit her like a thunderbolt. Jocelyn wasn't supposed to be here, and the presence of armed guards suggested she was in serious danger. Britt's protective instincts, honed through years of being both villain and hero, immediately took over. Whatever had brought her to this place, she couldn't stand by and watch an innocent person suffer, especially someone she had risked her life to protect before. The rescue mission. Britt's medical background had taught her patience and precision, qualities that served her well as she observed the guards' patterns over the next several hours. She noticed their shift changes, their moments of distraction, and most importantly, their overconfidence in their remote location. When the evening brought a brief lull in their vigilance, Britt seized her opportunity. Using her knowledge of the hotel's layout and a few carefully applied medical techniques to disable the lone guard, Britt managed to breach their makeshift prison. The reunion between Britt and Jocelyn was emotional, but brief survival took precedence over explanations. Vaughn, initially suspicious of this unexpected rescuer, quickly realized that Britt's intervention was their only hope of escape. The trio moved through the hotel's service areas with practiced stealth, Britt's intimate knowledge of the building proving invaluable. They reached a secluded area of the resort grounds where they could finally catch their breath and begin to process what had just happened. It was in this moment of relative safety that the conversation began that would shatter everything they thought they knew about their lives and families. The first revelation. As they caught their breath in their temporary sanctuary, Vaughn found himself studying Britt's face with growing confusion. Something about her features seemed familiar in a way that went beyond their brief encounter. During the rescue, when he finally worked up the courage to ask about her background, the conversation took an unexpected turn. Britt, still processing her own return from the dead and the circumstances that had brought her to Croatia, found herself opening up to these unlikely allies. She spoke of her father, Caesar Faison, and the complicated legacy of being the daughter of one of Port Charles' most notorious villains. The pain in her voice was evident as she described the years of manipulation and the constant struggle to forge her own identity separate from her father's crimes. Vaughn's reaction was immediate and visceral. The blood drained from his face as he processed what Britt was telling him. In a voice barely above a whisper, he revealed his own shocking truth. He too was a son of Caesar Faison. The implications hit both of them like a physical blow. They weren't just allies thrown together by circumstance, they were family, siblings who had never known of each other's existence. The moment was charged with emotion as they realized they shared not just DNA, but also the burden of their father's legacy. Britt, who had spent years feeling isolated by her parentage, suddenly had a brother who understood the unique challenges of being Faison's child. Vaughn, who had built his identity around his work with the WSB, now faced the reality that his bloodline connected him to some of the most dangerous criminals in recent history. The ultimate bombshell. As the siblings processed this life-changing revelation, Vaughn's expression grew even more troubled. Jocelyn, who had been quietly observing this family reunion, sensed that there was more to come. When she gently pressed Vaughn to share what was clearly weighing on his mind, his next words shattered the night air like a gunshot. "They're all still alive," he said, his voice thick with a mixture of fear and disbelief. "Faison, Peter, Nathan, they're all still alive." The statement hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Britt, who had witnessed Nathan's death and mourned her half-brother, felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Jocelyn, who knew the history of these men and the pain they had caused, realized that everything Port Charles thought it knew about recent events had been built on lies. Vaughn explained how his work with the WSB had gradually uncovered a conspiracy that reached to the highest levels of international espionage. The deaths that had been mourned, the graves that had been visited, the peace that had been assumed, all of it had been an elaborate deception. Faison's genius for manipulation had extended even to orchestrating his own death and the deaths of his sons, creating the perfect cover for their continued operations. The revelation explained so much about recent events. Britt's own survival and mysterious circumstances at Five Poppies suddenly made sense. Within the context of a larger family conspiracy, the resources required to fake multiple deaths and maintain such an elaborate deception could only come from someone with Faison's connections and ruthlessness. The weight of truth. As the three processed these earth-shattering revelations, the full scope of their situation became clear. They weren't just dealing with Pascal and his immediate threats. They were caught in the web of a conspiracy that involved some of the most dangerous people alive. The men that Port Charles had mourned were still out there, still capable of the kind of destruction that had marked their previous activities. For Britt, the knowledge that Nathan was alive brought both hope and terror. Her brother, the good man who had tried to rise above their father's legacy, might still be savable. But if he was alive and hadn't reached out, what did that mean about his current situation and loyalties? Vaughn faced his own internal crisis. His entire career with the WSB might have been compromised from the beginning. How many of his missions had actually served his father's interests? How much of his life had been a lie orchestrated by the very man he thought he was working against? The night air around Five Poppies seemed to pulse with danger and possibility, as these three unlikely allies realized that their escape from Pascal was only the beginning. They now held secrets that could reshape the entire understanding of recent Port Charles history, but they also carried target signs that would make them hunted by some of the most dangerous people alive. As they prepared to leave their temporary sanctuary and venture into an uncertain future, one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The Faison legacy lived on, more dangerous and complex than anyone had imagined, and the battle for truth was just beginning. Next, we will dive into the evolving drama surrounding Willow Tate and why she's causing such a stir among devoted viewers. In the ever-twisting world of Port Charles, character arcs can shift dramatically, and it seems Willow Tate is at the center of a major fan backlash. Not too long ago, her storyline captivated audiences with its emotional highs and heartfelt struggles, drawing in viewers who rooted for her resilience and quiet strength. But lately, the tide has turned, with many expressing frustration that has led them to tune out from her segments entirely. This shift isn't just a fleeting complaint. It's rooted in a growing perception that Willow has lost the spark that once made her compelling. Fans are vocal about how her decisions feel increasingly disconnected from the grounded, relatable traits that initially won them over, leaving her narrative feeling flat and uninspiring. Delving deeper, the core issue appears to be Willow's struggle with relatability in the face of mounting personal chaos. Viewers who once saw her as a symbol of quiet determination now argue that she's become a shadow of her former self, trapped in cycles that highlight her vulnerabilities without offering growth. For instance, her entanglements with powerful figures in town have painted her as someone who's more reactive, then proactive, often sidelined in her own story. This has sparked debates on social media platforms where fans dissect every episode, pointing out how Willow's choices seem dictated by external forces rather than her own agency. Imagine a character who started as a fresh face in the hospital corridors, dealing with health scares and family secrets, only to morph into someone whose every move feels scripted for drama rather than authenticity. Adding to this, some speculate that the writers might be intentionally amplifying her flaws to set up bigger plot twists, like potential redemption arcs or unexpected alliances that could reignite interest. Of course, the influence of Drew Quartermain looms large in these discussions, as his controlling presence in Willow's life has become a flashpoint for criticism. Fans argue that while Drew's manipulative tendencies add tension, they've overshadowed Willow's potential for independence, making her appear passive and dependent. It's as if she's caught in a web of his ambitions, from business dealings to personal vendettas, which prevent her from stepping into her own spotlight. Viewers are calling for her to break free and start forging paths based on her own instincts, perhaps by focusing on her role as a mother or pursuing professional goals at the hospital that showcase her skills beyond romantic entanglements. This sentiment echoes through online forums, where enthusiasts imagine alternate scenarios, like Willow teaming up with unlikely allies to challenge Drew's hold, or even exploring hidden facets of her backstory, such as untold family histories that could add layers to her personality. The online buzz from ABC General Hospital enthusiasts is impossible to ignore, with comment sections overflowing with passionate takes on Willow's trajectory. One viewer reminisced about her early days, saying something along the lines of, "Remember when Willow burst onto the scene with that fiery spirit and intriguing mysteries? She was the talk of the town. But now she's morphed into this frustrating figure who seems lost in the shuffle. Blame it on Drew's overbearing shadow, perhaps, but it's high time for a change." Others echo this frustration, suggesting a temporary break from her screen time could refresh the narrative, allowing space for more dynamic interactions. They emphasize that while no one wants her character erased from the canvas, a hiatus might prevent burnout and open doors to deeper, more meaningful developments that foster genuine conversations among fans. Building on that, another wave of feedback highlights how Willow often feels like a supporting piece in larger puzzles rather than a standalone force. Critics point out that over the seasons, she's been utilized more as a catalyst for other characters' growth, whether it's Michael's family dynamics or Nina's rivalries, leaving her own development stagnant. This has led to descriptions of her as lacking substance, with little to grasp onto in terms of personal motivations or quirks that make her memorable. Envision expanding her world with new elements, like a secret hobby or a long-lost connection from her past that injects freshness, turning her from a mere plot tool into a multifaceted individual. Fans crave that depth, yearning for storylines where Willow navigates challenges with wit and resolve, perhaps even delving into ethical dilemmas at the hospital that test her morals and reveal hidden strengths. Echoing these views, some comments cut straight to the chase, expressing exhaustion with Willow's repeated missteps. One fan vented, "I'm over the constant drama with Willow. It's time she steps up, distances herself from toxic influences like Drew, and starts acting with the maturity of a responsible parent. Secure a stable home, prioritize your kids, and show some adult decision-making." This ties into upcoming plot points, such as the looming custody hearing that's building tension. Yet Willow seems preoccupied with power plays and alliances that undermine her credibility, instead of strategizing with questionable partners who are known for underhanded tactics. Viewers urge her to focus on rebuilding her life authentically, perhaps by seeking counsel from trusted friends or immersing in community efforts that highlight her compassionate side. Looking ahead, the question of what's next for Willow hangs in the air, fueling speculation about potential turns that could salvage her appeal. Will the writers heed the fan outcry and introduce twists that empower her, like a bold confrontation with Drew or a surprising career pivot that showcases her intelligence? Some imagine her forming new bonds, perhaps with characters from the Quartermain clan in unexpected ways, or uncovering revelations about her heritage that add intrigue. Others hope for crossovers with ongoing hospital scandals, positioning Willow as a key player in ethical battles that restore her relevance. Whatever the path, it's clear that the audience is invested enough to voice these concerns, signaling that with the right adjustments, Willow could reclaim her spot as a fan favorite. As the soap opera landscape continues to evolve, these fan reactions serve as a reminder of how deeply connected viewers are to the characters they follow week after week. Willow's current predicament might be a temporary dip, but with creative storytelling, she could emerge stronger, more relatable, and ready to captivate once more. Next, we will explore the high-stakes intrigue unfolding at the Five Poppies resort, where Jason Morgan might soon charge back into action to aid in a daring rescue mission. In the bustling undercurrents of Port Charles' latest drama, whispers from ABC General Hospital spoilers suggest that Jason Morgan could be pulled right back into the fray at the luxurious yet perilous Five Poppies resort. This comes amid revelations that Britt Westburn might be hatching a covert strategy to free Jocelyn Jacks and the enigmatic Vaughn from their dire predicament. Picture the resort's opulent facade hiding dark secrets, with guarded doors and shadowy figures adding to the tension. It all kicked off in the gripping episode aired on August 29th, where Britt's innate curiosity got the better of her, leading her to investigate a mysteriously protected entrance. By cleverly distracting the watchful Tomas, she swiped her keycard and slipped inside, only to stumble upon a shocking sight that left her reeling. There, bound and desperate, were Jocelyn and Vaughn, pleading for her intervention in hushed, urgent tones. Yet, in a moment of calculated hesitation, Britt held back, recognizing the explosive risks of acting impulsively in such a volatile environment. To flesh this out, imagine Britt's mind racing with flashbacks to her own past brushes with danger, weighing the loyalty she feels toward old allies against the potential fallout from crossing powerful adversaries lurking in the resort's corridors. Building on that pivotal discovery, Britt's internal turmoil is palpable as she grapples with the gravity of the situation, her medical instincts clashing with the need for self-preservation. She couldn't simply untie the captives and bolt, knowing it would trigger alarms and possibly endanger everyone involved, including herself. This hesitation isn't born from indifference, but from a strategic mindset honed by years in Port Charles' chaotic web of alliances and betrayals. Perhaps she's already envisioning a multi-step escape plan, one that involves timing, diversions, and maybe even recruiting discreet help from the resort staff, who might sympathize with her plight. Spoilers hint that if Britt decides to proceed with a rescue, she'll require backup to navigate the resort's labyrinthine layout, complete with hidden passages and surveillance that could foil even the most careful moves. That's where the burner phone Jason discreetly provided her becomes a lifeline, tucked away in a nondescript box in her room for just such emergencies. Envision Britt stealthily retreating to her quarters under the guise of a routine errand, her heart pounding as she retrieves the device, its anonymous signal a beacon of hope in the midst of uncertainty. Meanwhile, Jason Morgan, the stoic enforcer with a history of pulling off impossible feats, is en route back to the familiar streets of Port Charles. But his journey might be abruptly rerouted. He hasn't ventured far, perhaps still within striking distance of the resort, allowing for a swift U-turn if the call comes in. The mere whisper of Jocelyn's peril would ignite his protective instincts, propelling him to race back without a second thought, his motorcycle cutting through the night like a shadow on a mission. Inventing a fresh layer here, one could picture Jason reflecting on his complicated bond with Jocelyn's family during the drive, memories of past rescues fueling his determination to ensure no harm befalls Carly Spencer's daughter. General Hospital teasers for the week of September 1st to 5th promise a jolting surprise for Jason, likely tied to Britt's urgent update via that hidden phone. She might relay the captive's location, describing the dimly lit room with its makeshift restraints and the faint echoes of distant resort festivities masking their pleas. Delving into the details Britt could share, she might reveal how Jocelyn and Vaughn ended up in this mess, possibly linking it to a bold infiltration of the WSB operations embedded within the resort's grounds. This twist adds a cloak and dagger element, with the pair perhaps posing as guests to uncover classified intel, only to get ensnared by Pascal's vigilant forces. Jason, upon hearing this, would need a moment to absorb the implications, his analytical mind piecing together how two seemingly ordinary individuals became entangled in international espionage. But priorities would shift immediately to extraction, sidelining questions for later debriefings back in Port Charles. Adding inventive flair, imagine Jason coordinating with Britt over the encrypted line, suggesting diversions like a staged power outage or a phony medical emergency to draw guards away. Drawing from his vast experience in high-risk operations, together, they could orchestrate a seamless plan, with Jason slipping back onto the property under cover of darkness, his presence as untraceable as a ghost. As the tension escalates, Vaughn and Jocelyn find themselves staring down what feels like an inevitable doom. their fears peaking on September 5th as threats from their captors intensify. Tied in a secluded wing of the resort, they might exchange whispered words of encouragement, Jocelyn drawing on her youthful resilience while Vaughn relies on his mysterious background for any edge. Yet, in this darkest hour, salvation could arrive in the form of Jason's timely intervention, bolstered by Britt's insider knowledge and her decision to flip the script. Perhaps Britt, feigning compliance with Pascal's crew, creates the perfect window for Jason to burst in, neutralizing threats with his trademark efficiency. This rescue wouldn't just be about physical liberation. It could spark new alliances, with Britt emerging as an unlikely hero whose actions mend frayed relationships from her past. Envision the aftermath: Jocelyn reuniting with a tearful Carly, Vaughn slipping away to tie up loose ends with the WSB, and Jason reflecting on how close calls like these reinforce his unbreakable ties to the Corinthos clan. Looking forward, this storyline at Five Poppies Resort promises to ripple through Port Charles, potentially exposing larger conspiracies that draw in more beloved characters. Jason's return and the successful rescue could set the stage for confrontations with figures like Pascal, whose hidden agendas might unravel in spectacular fashion. Fans are buzzing about how this arc revives Jason's role as the ultimate protector, blending action with emotional depth. Britt's involvement adds complexity, hinting at her own redemption journey amid the resort's glamorous yet treacherous backdrop. As always, General Hospital keeps us on the edge with these twists, reminding us why Port Charles remains a hotbed of endless drama. What do you think will happen next? Will Jason pull off the save, or are there more surprises in store? Share your predictions below, and stay tuned for more spoilers.